Hello there, I'm Dr. Jen Frahm from the Agile Change Leadership Institute. I'm coming to you with a presentation on You Want to Be a Change Manager. This is a presentation that originally started off as a webinar in 2017, I think it was, when I was producing webinars for people who were thinking about how do they get into the change management space. In the last 18 months, I co-founded the Agile Change Leadership Institute with Lena Ross, and one of the things that we used to love doing was connecting with people and helping them get into this space. And we've just got to a point where we're actually a bit too busy to do that now. And so we thought what might be helpful is if we actually use that webinar and some of the posts that we've written about this and turn it into a bit of a presentation for you. So if you're watching this at the moment, it's possibly somebody has sent you a link to it or you found it yourself. This is very informal. It's not particularly polished. The whole purpose is to give you some material that might be helpful for you getting into change, for the fact that we probably can't catch up with you and have a coffee and talk it through with you. So if you are unfamiliar with Lena and myself, Lena is a very experienced change facilitator, and Lena has worked in the change capability building space for some time now, background in training and development, and has worked in the Agile space over the last 5 or 6 years, maybe 7 years, like myself. I'm an organisational change consultant, and again, I've got a university educator background, and have been playing in this beautiful space called Agile Change for about 6 years. Lena and I joined forces, gee whiz, 2017, I think it was, again, when we both published our first books, which was The Conversations of Change, A Guide to Implementing Workplace Change, and Lena's book, Hacking for Agile Change, with an agile mindset, behaviours and practices. And out of that came a really fabulous collaborative experience. We then went on to collaborate with clients, and then we went, let's make this collaboration formal, and that became the Agile Change Leadership Institute. We still have our separate businesses on the side of that, and so if you want to find out more about Lena, you can go to Change Hacks, search Change Hacks on Google. Most of my stuff is now at drjenfrahm.com, but you will find conversationsofchange.com.au has a heap of resources for people who are looking to get into the change space. So to start with, what we're doing today, we're going to go a little bit meta. And what I mean by going a little bit meta is we're going to use a change methodology to understand how you might change yourself. That is, move from a current state, which is not a change manager, to a future state, which is a change manager. And so in doing this, what we're going to do is give you some education on how to do change, but you're using yourself as the change. The model that I'm going to use in today's seminar or presentation is a relatively old-fashioned model: discovery, design, build, implement, and evaluate. It's still a very valuable model of how we do change, most commonly used in what is known as waterfall projects, where you go through each stage in a linear process, more so than Agile. You can Google Mark Simpson taxonomy of change models, and you will find a SlideShare presentation, again, that was 2017, I think it was, where Mark provides us with, goodness, I think it's about 47 different change models. So don't get attached to this as a change model. There are many out there that you can use, and it's really beneficial that you spend time doing the research and thinking about these models of change and what works and in what condition. But we're going to use that as the organising framework for this presentation. So let's have a look at discovery. Before we do that, what I want to do is give you what are the different things that happen when we are working across the different phases. So when I said that this is a fairly linear model, we would first do discovery. And in discovery, we're looking at what are the organizational factors, who are our stakeholders, what is the change, what are the change impacts, What are the preferred communication channels? Who is trusted? What's the level of skills, knowledge, and ability? You're seeking to discover as much information as possible to help you design an effective change management process for your organization. Now, in design, what are we designing? Well, based on what we've found, how do we design the best fit for purpose change plan, the communication plan, the readiness plan, the training plan, and the transition to business as usual plan? When we look at the build phase, we're asking ourselves, what do we need to build, to create to be effective? So communication collateral, training material, testing environments, simulations, our change champion community. Once we're looking at implement, we're looking at what are the briefings that we have to do, the training that we have to do, the presentations, and is our support set up? And then finally, in evaluate, what we're looking at is how well has this worked? What do we need to do to tweak continuing change? Now, for the astute of you, you'll be going, gee whiz, there's a lot in discovery. And that is because typically we front load change work. The more work you do in discovery makes for the smoother and the effectiveness of what you do downstream. And the same thing's going to happen with you in this presentation. So the bulk of the work that we will do and we will talk about will be about discovery from your perspective to work out how easy is this going to be a transition for you as a change practitioner. So I mentioned then current state and future state. What this means is that you really need to sit down and I'd encourage you to, if you haven't done so already, hit pause on this and go find a notebook. Make it a really special notebook, a notebook that's all going to be about your change journey and how you move to being a change manager. So I'll just let you hit pause. And maybe you're coming back now. So in your notepad, put two headings, current state and future state. They're two really important concepts in change that whenever we go into an organization and we're looking to manage a change, we've got to get a real clear view on what is the current state of the business unit or the organization or the team, and then what is the future state? So what are we changing from what to what? So this exercise asks you to take a bit of a look in the mirror and look at you now and see if you can capture how you would describe yourself in your current state professionally. Then I want you to look ahead, look out, and think about yourself as a change manager. And write down what are the words or the phrases that make sense to you in terms of your future state. What is the change that you want to create? So get really, really clear about that. Your next task is to think about your timeline. So when we're doing change, one of the things we're really interested in is how much runway do we have in front of us? Is this a change that's going live in about 6 weeks and we've just been brought in to do it? Or do we have 6 months? So thinking about when you want to be a change manager, what is your timeline for this? Is this something you feel a really strong urgency towards, or is it something that you're comfortable building a program of work that will get you to a future state in maybe 12 months' time, maybe 18 months' time, maybe 3 years' time? So they're two really important concepts, current state, future state, and the time it's going to take to make that movement across. Then you need to be thinking about what kind of change is it? So is this incremental change for you? Is it a horizontal move with, you've got some experience in organizational change or project change? Or is it completely transformational, right? You've never worked in this field at all. It's in a completely different role for you. Those two elements or descriptors of the type of change you're going through will determine your time frame. If this is transformational change for you, in most cases, it's going to take a lot longer than incremental change. Now, having said that, it doesn't have to be a barrier. You can do transformational change really quickly. It often comes at a cost, though, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about in one of the slides ahead. I mentioned before creating clarity of your vision. As you start to share what you're doing with other people, and we'll talk about that in terms of your change communication, one of the things you need to do is make sure that you've got a really compelling vision. So people will really want to help you and will be really keen to listen to you and point you in the right direction if you can tell a compelling story about why you want to get into change. So I would invite you to sit down with that notepad and just really interrogate your personal story. What is it about your world, your past, your history that brings this really compelling urge to become a change practitioner? If it's just about the money, you may find that it's going to be a change that's not really effective for you, right? There usually has to be some really strong values alignment or some experience you've had in your workplace, right? So for me, I came into change because I'd gone through a period of roles where each one happened, went through change, and it was disruptive and it was traumatic change. And I got to a point where I just did not want to be on the receiving end of change anymore. I wanted to be doing it. That was my way. That was the control freak within came out and said, actually, there's got to be a better way to do this change. And so I actually need to step up and take charge of that. So on your notepad, as part of this getting really clear about your future state and building this story about a compelling vision, I'm going to invite you to do this thought experiment, but it's more than a thought experiment, right? So you're thinking about it, but you're also writing it down and saying, by what date I want to be what and where. So start to fill in the blanks here and think about your future state. And, because one of the things that I have found in my practice is that the more that I can capture some of these thinkings and getting really specific about it, the more it helps you identify things that are going to be really helpful to you in becoming this future state. So think about, what kind of workplace do you really want to be working in and doing this kind of work? What does it look like? So what does a typical day in your life look like? What are the conversations you can hear? What are the clothes that you're wearing, right? Is this a casual, informal workplace? Is this a very formal place you're suiting up every day? What is the attitude of the people you're working with? Who are the type of people that you want to work with? And what value is it that you bring to this environment? So spending some time really, I was going to say meditating on this, and it is a meditation, but this process of sitting down and getting really clear around what you want your future state to be helps you tell your story better, but it also helps you attract the opportunities that come to you in this space. So here's one way of doing it. It's a mind map, right? So put yourself in the future, put the date at which you wish to be walking into an organization as a change manager, and capture some thoughts on what is it that you see? What is it that you know? What is it that you hear? What is it that you smell? What do you taste? And how do you feel? What is the feeling that you're having at that point in time? What you're doing in your brain with this activity is you're starting to connect pathways that will be far more ambitious for you than simply saying, I want to be a change manager. Help me do it. You're actually starting to create pathways to seeing opportunities. And so when you see them around you, you recognize them, right? You hear a conversation, you go, hang on, this is the type of conversation that I thought I wanted to be hearing. Let me access it. Let me put my hand up and say hello. When you're in a new workplace and you get this feeling, it's like, this is the feeling I wanted when I was going to be a change manager. This might be the right place for me. So you're really bringing all this stuff into your current state by identifying how important it is to you. So in discovery, let's have a look at you. Change practitioners come to this field from very many different backgrounds. Now, this is an awesome thing. This is a truly fabulous thing. This means that we have a beautiful diversity of skills and knowledge in our field. And so if I think about the change practitioners that I've worked with, they've come from engineering, they've come from teaching, they've come from HR, communications, project management, IT, organizational psychology. I don't have marketing up there. I came from marketing and communications and advertising before I got into this space. There are very few occupational barriers to getting into change work, because you should be able to find something in your past history and career that adds value to your future state. So it's really worth mining that, to look at your past career narrative, to go, what is it of the work that I've done in the past that adds value to the role of the change manager? So thinking about, and this is where we're going into discovery now. So you're the change to be managed. What are your strengths? Are they analytical? Do you have strengths at building rapport, commercial acumen? Does your background lend itself to a particular type of change? You know, you understand the industry, you can translate the changes. They're kind of things that you want to be looking at as you apply the discovery stage to yourself, right? Discover about yourself. So one of the things we talk about in change is change readiness. And change readiness is defined by the ability, effectively, you know, we talk about can you, will you? So can you make the change? Will you make the change? Do you have the resources to make the change and the ability to make the change? And then do you have the psychological aptitude to make the change? So in discovery, we're often looking at change readiness of teams and organizations, and are they ready for change? And so in discovery with yourself, what you're asking is, how ready for change are you, right? So do you have the knowledge, skills, and ability? Can you break these down? And then where are there gaps? What are the steps in addressing that, right? So if you can actually pull out, okay, here's what I've got, but here's what I'm missing, you work on what's missing to make the change. In discovery, we often look in organizations from a learning perspective to go, okay, what kind of training and development is going to be required to bring in this change? And the 70-20-10 model is one of the most popular models out there in learning and development. Interestingly, there's been work done to debunk this, right? And so where this model came from was a study of where do managers spend their time in learning? And so the study showed that managers spend 70% of their time doing experiential learning. So self-study, and that might be books, blogs, social media, online courses, and reflection. Secondment, so experiential learning is secondment, shadow opportunities, putting your hand up to lead a smaller change in your current team and using that learning for your reflection. 20% of the time managers used social learning, so through their networks. And in the change space, we've got the Change Management Institute, we've got ACMP, we've got recruiting companies, we've got Change Hub, you've got mentors, and you've got coaching. 10% of the time, managers actually did their learning and development through formal studies, so university degrees or commercial vendor degrees. So if we think about you want to be a change manager, there's going to be ProSci, PCI, APMG as your options there. Now, where this got debunked in terms of how we cling to it was that the research that they did on this was, where do they currently spend their time? 70, 20, 10. It didn't ask what was the effective way of learning, right? It didn't say what was the most effective model of this. It's literally, that's where we spend the money. 10% of the time we're paying for learning, 90% of the time we're not. So it's worth keeping that in mind, rather than marrying yourself to this model to go, this is the perfect way we should do it. It's the way that it is normally done. I hope that makes sense. So if you're looking for some form of online courses that gets you started in this space, I am going to point you to my business partner, Lena Ross, and the work she's done with the Change Essentials. So the Change Essentials was her new book published in early 2020, but she's also created an online course. And if you are new to change, it is awesome, because not only does it take you through everything that you need to do change, but it gives you a whole stack of templates and tools. It's all online, self-paced, so it's really, really valuable if you're kicking off in this space. Lena has also developed an online course for where design thinking meets change managers, and also human behavior, a micro-learning program on behavior hacks. So you would want to be building that into your training and development program for yourself. Here's a great activity to do. Go to Seek or LinkedIn. So again, this is part of your discovery. Grab 10 ads that appeal to you. And then do an analysis of what do you have and what do you not have? Where could you find opportunities to fill the gap? So if you looked at 10 ads and looked at how likely, and this is a change readiness piece, right? How ready are you for that role? And you will come up with answers to say, well, it's looking for this, this, and this. I've got these first 3 things, but I don't have these next 2 areas. That's what I need to do at this point in time. Now, interestingly, as you go through this, you're going to find that a lot of the job ads now have the words agile in it. So there's this additional requirement. If you're moving into change management, you're probably going to be moving into agile change management. It's just the way that the career, the profession is going. Now that's where we can help you with learning pathways. So one of the products that we released this year was the Agile Change Playbook. And if you did nothing else but bought that playbook and had 30 tools, practices of how to do agile change, you'd be in a really good position, right? You can walk into an organization and feel quite confident that you've got tools and skills in front of you. So we put together the learning pathway here for agile change. And as you can see, early career, the change essentials, which I told you about before. Change practitioners starting to employ more design thinking into their work, have got that other online course that Lena offers. For our experienced change practitioners, and by that I mean 3+ years, next year we'll be launching our Agile Change Practitioner Certificate, which will be an online course. And if you are a senior change practitioner and you are leading groups of people, you may be interested in our Agile Change Leadership Certificate. One of the prereqs for that is that you do need to be leading a team on that. So it kind of depends in your move into change. Are you moving in at that level, or are you moving in as an early career practitioner? But if you need agile, being able to upskill in the space of agile change, then we can certainly help you with that. So there's the playbook. Everybody who buys a playbook gets an invite into the Agile Change Adventure online community site. So if by any chance you are watching this on YouTube and you have a copy of the playbook that you have purchased through Amazon or one of the online bookstores, drop us a line and let us know so we can invite you into that group, because obviously we don't have visibility of that. In that group, you'll find that they're starting to post templates that they're using, job intel on jobs coming up. They're asking for advice. It's a really lovely community that's really quite generous in what they're sharing. Okay, let's talk stakeholders. One of the things you have to do in discovery is stakeholder identification. So think about establishing a stakeholder matrix. So who are your stakeholders? A stakeholder is anybody who literally has a stake in the decision that's being made or the change that's being made. So they've got a vested interest. You need to think about or find out in discovery, what is their interest, right? How can they help you? But also, how can you help them? One of the things we really privilege in change practitioners is stakeholder engagement, right? You know if someone is a good change practitioner by how well they engage stakeholders. So for your own self, if you are thinking about how, who are the stakeholders in your change from your current state to your future state as a change practitioner, they will probably be past work colleagues, family, friends, strangers that you meet at networking, and look for recommendations from them, right? Those people who have recommended you. Your networks will provide fast tracking. So you need to be joining and attending meetups on change management to meet other change managers in the field. So again, I'm thinking the Change Management Institute, I'm thinking change management professionals at, IABC is a communication network, which is also very useful. Change Hub, your university alumni nights, conferences, and of course meetups is a great way to start mapping all of the stakeholders in the field. In an organizational change, if you were a change manager, you would be doing something like this template in front of you. You'd be capturing who is the stakeholder, what is their status in terms of, where are they in terms of the change? Are they neutral? Are they excited? Are they supportive? What are your objectives with that stakeholder? What do you want them to be doing when you're going to catch up with them? What are the key issues for that stakeholder? What's your intended involvement? Like, how do you need them in the change? And then suggested action engagement plan. What's in it for them? This really comes to life for you when you're starting to think about, should I reach out to someone that I don't know and ask for help? And we see this most commonly on LinkedIn, right? So this is part of the reason why I'm recording this, is because often I get people reaching out to me saying, can you help? I want to move into the change space. You need to take the same approach with people you don't know as you would an organizational stakeholder, and think about what's in it for them. They don't know you at all. Why should they give up some of their time to spend time with you? If you do that, you will find that you're in a much better position to, to actually be able to get them to respond in a way that you want them to. So that means doing some research. Maybe that means finding out what they're really interested in, being really specific about what you want of them. People's time is really precious. Excuse me. So taking the time to think about who you should reach out to is really important, right? And planning how you approach them if you want to be able to engage them. The short answer is, should I reach out to someone I don't know? The answer is yes, every time, yes, right? That's what you'll be doing as a change manager. You will be reaching out to managers and leaders in the organization that don't know you. And you have to very quickly establish rapport. You have to make it really clear that it's worth their time to spend some time with you. So this is excellent practice. It's also important to recognize that if someone says no or chooses not to engage with you, it's possibly that you haven't presented a what's in it for them, or they're simply too busy, right? It's not anything that's personal with that. One of the things you'll be doing is creating stakeholder engagement schedule. If you have reached out to somebody and you have got their time, you then need to think about how you're going to continue that engagement with them, right? It's not one, you have one meeting with them and that's it. You want to keep them as an engaged stakeholder so that they will support you in the future. So that might mean that you find articles that you think would be interesting to them, that you know that they're passionate about, and you just flick it to them once a month or once every 2 months. It might be that you do introductions for them that would be useful for them. If they are posting on social media, you like their post, you share their post, but you need to be thinking about, how do I keep this connection alive with this stakeholder so that we are forming a relationship and we are building a relationship over time. That's exactly what you do in organizational change. All right, I said that discovery was front-loaded, so the most of this seminar presentation has been in that space. Now we're going to look at design. So in design, here's some of the things you're going to be thinking about with yourself as a change practitioner. What are your key messages, right? In change, we need you to design a change communication plan. You need to do a change communication plan on yourself. So what are your key messages? Who are your audience? What channels are you going to use? And I really want you to think about communicating with, not communicating to, right? This is not a one-way approach. This is such a valuable exercise to do when you're looking to change career. I can't overemphasize how much of a difference this one will make. Because if you have a plan on a page for yourself and that you have clarity on what you want to say to people, how you want to engage them, how you're going to do it, who is important to, it saves you time speaking to randoms that make no sense. It saves their time. It gives such, specificity on what you're looking from people, so your key messages, but it makes it easy for other people to help you. When you're clear about what you want, people can come forward and I've always found that people actually really want to help other people. So if if you can meet them halfway there to making it easy to help you, it's going to be good. You're also going to design your change roadmap, your success metrics. So we'll talk a little bit about them in a moment too. I talked before about your timeline, right? Your timeline in terms of when do you want to be a change manager. You need this for your change roadmap. Your roadmap is going to look something like, an A3 page, which maps out, and maybe we talk in quarters. What are you doing this quarter, next quarter, the following quarter, and the quarter after it? What are your objectives on your path to changing your current state to your future state as a change practitioner? So having some real intentionality, being intentional about what you're doing and when you're going to do it. I think I've already talked about that. We've got a duplicate slide in there. Let's have a look at those success metrics. So this image on the right is what we know as the change curve. When we talk about taking people on the journey, we're taking them through the different phases of awareness, understanding, buy-in, and commitment. Now, this model is an abbreviated format of other change curves that are out there. The most prominent one comes from Darrell Connor. And I think one of the things that's really important to recognize, once upon a time, we talked a lot about hearts and minds in change. We had to, get people committed to the change. That made a lot of sense when we would do a change and then there would be a period of stability after that, and maybe we'd do another big change in 3 or 4 years' time. It stopped having as much resonance when we moved into this world of continuous change, because the amount of work it takes to get people fully committed to your change is not worth the return on investment if in 3 months' time you need to break that commitment to get them accepting another change. And that's more like the reality of what we work with at the moment. So from my perspective, I focus on awareness, understanding, and buy-in on all my changes. The only times that I look at commitment is if it is a cultural change, because culture typically is a long-lasting entity, or strategic change. So strategy usually does not change every 3 months. But if it is software platforms, if it is processes, if it is policies, you can often expect, that to be cycling on a fairly rapid schedule these days. Just work on awareness, understanding, and buy-in. Applying this to yourself, thinking about, if I'm going to be successful in people being aware that I am looking to change careers, what would success look like? If I'm going to be successful in people understanding that I have the skills and knowledge to be a change manager, what would that look like? And then how do I measure success at buy-in? How will I know I am successful? Is it a job offer, right? Or is it a job offer at a really fantastic place? Is it an opportunity to shadow on a role? So really thinking about how will I know when I'm being successful on this journey of moving from my current state to a future state as a change practitioner? Let's have a look at build. So It's really only one slide on this, right? When you're working in change in organizations, you will go through a phase where you have to build a lot of stuff. So you might be building change champion networks, you might be building your communications material, your briefing packs, all those kind of stuff. Basically means we're creating it. In this sense though, your build phase means you're building knowledge, you're building skills, you're building networks, you're building a great resume, and you're building examples and evidence of you being a change manager, right? So your learning and development plan that you worked out in Discovery is going to inform your knowledge and skills. Your stakeholder engagement informs how you build your networks. Your resume is a change communication piece, isn't it? Really? It's an artifact that says, here's what I can do to deliver this change, as is your examples and evidence. So this is the really nice thing. This is why I like using this as a model to be quite meta and say the same things that you have to do in organizations, you have to do for yourself, and they are directly related to the activities that you do in Discovery. You can't actually build if you haven't done the Discovery piece. So that's the interdependency there. Let's have a look at implement. Right, you're going live. What does it mean to go live? It means to behave like a change manager. You do not need the title or the role of change manager to be a change manager. You could do it tomorrow, right? Start, and this is no matter what role you're in at the moment, if you start behaving like a change manager, you're going to be noticed for those behaviors. People are going to see opportunities for you, or they're going to say, hey, do you want to step up and do this for a while? Or actually, I've really noticed that you're good at engaging people and getting them to try new things. Perhaps you could take the lead on this piece of work. They all start to become evidence for you in your resume in terms of the experience of what you've had in change. So do not wait to get the job to do the job. The three top attributes from our perspective of change practitioners are resourcefulness, strong engagement skills, and adaptability. Resourcefulness is really important, right? If you have found yourself to this YouTube clip, this video, independently, that nobody has sent you the link, this bodes really well for you, right? You've got the makings of a great change practitioner. You know how to use Google. You are resourceful. If you have come to this because someone has said, hey, this might be really useful and we want to see you be successful, you've probably got strong engagement skills. People want to help you. And if you've got to this point because you're looking for what's next, you could be quite adaptable. And so that's a good thing. But at this point, I want to say, please, please, please take a look at yourself and your past practice through the lens of these three things. If you're the type of person who needs a template on how to do things, if you need somebody to tell you what the pathway is, and I say this from a position of clear is kind, you're probably not in the right space to be a change practitioner, right? Change managers make sense of the messy with nobody helping them. So you've got to get good at that. If you're finding that people are reluctant to help you, you need to take a really strong look at your engagement skills. And, you know, one of the questions you kind of probably need to look at is, to what extent are you projecting a sense of entitlement about this, as opposed to, have I done the research on my stakeholders to understand how to engage them well? And then adaptability. You got to roll with the punches, right? You cannot be fixed about how this is going to happen. So I would really invite you to think critically about your past, professional past, to say, do I have evidence of these three things, and am I bringing them into focus for this particular change that I want to introduce? Now on that, as you go forward, as you create successes, even when you don't have the successes, if you come up against the obstacles, I'm really going to invite you to embrace and cultivate an attitude of gratitude, grace and reciprocity. Be really thankful. Make sure that you thank people. If you think about all the people who have helped you get to where you're at, please make sure that you are showing gratitude for that. Please make sure that you are being graceful about it. And please make sure that in some form you are providing reciprocity. It is not transactional. Now, the reciprocity thing, people can burr up about this and go, well, it's very, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's very transactional. It's not. If someone has helped you on your path and you then help them, it's transformational, right? You are taking your relationship to the next level. And I don't mind telling you that the vast majority of people that Lena and I have had coffees with to help them move into this space, we never hear from again, ever. They have lost opportunities for a transformed relationship with us, right? That's when it becomes transactional. And that's when the transaction is low in value for the people that you want to help them. So this is really, really important. If people have helped you along the way, send them a thank you card, send them a note, ask what you can do for them, share their work, recommend their stuff to other people, right? Make sure that you are adding value to the relationship so that you stay in community with them. If they've helped you, they can help you again. Don't burn them, right? Okay, let's have a look at evaluate. So we talked a bit about what are your success metrics. As you get along this pathway of changing from current state to future state, one of the things you need to be doing is evaluating, how well am I going on this change journey, right? So we talk about in Agile space, build, measure, learn. So do something, measure it, what was the lessons from it, how would I change what I do next time? Ask for feedback. So ask for feedback of your peers, your network. Do a reality check with recruiters. How is your CV now shaping up? Go back 3 months' time. Here's what I've done. Here's what's different. How is this now shaping up? But above all, understand your time, cost, quality trade-offs. So in change, there is always this, we call this the holy trinity of change project trade-offs. If you want to do something quickly, it's probably going to cost you a lot more and it may be at a reduced quality. If you want to do something cheaply, then it might take you a lot more time and it might be poor quality. If you want to do something really high quality, could take you a lot of time, could cost you. So you need to think about this as well as your journey. If you want to do this quickly, the quickest way for you to get into the change practitioner space is to do a change certification that's really, really well known, and it's going to cost you a fair chunk of change, right? High cost, quick time frame. Depending on how you use it will determine whether it's viewed as quality or not. However, if you've got more time and you've got less funds available to you, then you can probably build this career the way that, you know, is more iterative and more experiential. So that's something you need to think about. How do I want to go forward based on my budget, my commitment, and how urgent do I feel about this? Look, this one, I include this. When you work in change, you always work in the messy, right? People think that change is this linear pathway, that we're just going to go neatly from one space to another. But the reality is it's a tangled mess that we go through. I personally love this. This image on the right is the space I love working on. I love making sense of highly ambiguous situations and really messy, you know, creating structure and order in the messy is the work that I love doing. You need to love it too. If you want to work in change, you need to be able to embrace the messy. If that is too hard for you, or if that is, you know, really uncomfortable for you, then again, this maybe is not the career change you want to make. Alrighty, that brings us to the end of this presentation. I hope that that has been a worthwhile coffee catch up for you. We do, of course, wish you heaps of luck with this. If you want the slides, happy to share it. Email us at info@agilechangeinstitute.com.au. Follow Agile Change Leadership Institute on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or Insta. Let us know how useful this was to you. If it was useful, again, we invite you to share it with your network, share it on LinkedIn, share it on your Yammer, those kind of things, whatever it is that you find helpful. And if you've got ideas or future questions, because we'll probably do another version of this next year, if you've got questions that have come out of this, then email those questions to us at info@agilechangeinstitute.com.au. But for now, I'm going to sign off. We wish you all the best of luck in your personal change journey. Take care.